Okay, the next item is the review and possible approval of a change for support staff eligibility for district benefits from 17.5 hours to 30 hours weekly in alignment with the health care reform guidelines.
And what I'm going to do, I have a variety of, there is some different handouts up here. One is a lot of things going on with healthcare reform in the last month and going forward in the next 3 months, beginning on January 1st. The first and biggest hurdle that we'll need to cross is on October 1st, we'll need to have an exchange notice out to each and every employee. So there's some information on that exchange notice that will go out to all employees, regardless if they're taking health insurance or not taking health insurance. And this is a requirement of all businesses. A lot of times we like to talk about employers with 50 or more employees as being really the folks that have to pay attention to healthcare reform, but this exchange notification is for all employers at this point in time, and again, for all employers across the nation. Then we want to talk a little bit about what does that mean to us. What that means is on October 1st, we'll be telling people, you have an opportunity to go out to the exchange now. Okay? We do know that within that exchange that people will be eligible for some sort of subsidy. Now, what that subsidy is, we certainly have a good idea what that can be, and there will be a subsidy up into 400% of the poverty rate, for any one person or a family. So, but what we don't know, and that's a big unknown, is what will be the cost of those insurance plans on the exchange rates, and we will not know that till October 1st. We also know that on January 1st of 2014, the mandate for the individual health care will come into play. There was a mandate for employers to have the payer pay penalties on January 1st of 2014, but they've been delayed till January 1st of 2015. So we were moving along, and we thought we were in a good position, or hoped we were in a good position, and now we're even in a better position with holding off with those employer mandates until January 1st of 2015. But we have to start looking to see, okay, what does this mean with these exchanges? How is that going to affect employees? How is that going to affect the Toma Area School District? And you've seen not only do we have not so good news from our student numbers that we have to deal with, but we also have some other budget issues that we have to deal with based on what we're getting cost per students, and we shared some of those at the annual meeting. We're looking at a potential $700,000 deficit, which doesn't factor in enrollment drops that we talked about tonight. We won't know until the third Friday count, nor does it really bring into costs that that are associated with healthcare reform. And one of the costs I think that we kind of really need to take a look at is in-migration calculator, and I'm sorry if this is a little bit off, but what we're talking about in migration are those, and I'll get up just because I can, but in migration is really this first line, and what we're talking about in migration is what effects is healthcare going to reform have on employees? What is that going to shift them or make them do? Is it going to make them go on to their spouse's plan, or is that going to make them go on to their spouses come on to their plans? Where are their dependents going to go? All those different things. And last, I don't know, it seems like 2 years ago, but it was only in April, which seems like a short time ago, or thereabouts, February, we talked about in-migration a little bit here in the district and what that could mean. And when we looked at that, the most likely scenario for 2014, now that's been put off a year, so that really hasn't changed, was that we would see in-migration costs of about $542,300. We would also have some adverse selection, positive, whether that's positive or negative, meaning how will those people leaving our plan versus those people coming in, will that cost us more money or less money? Because they're bringing health experience or health insurance costs with them as they come across. So you had a lot of different costs here. You have the fees and the different taxes. So the impact of healthcare reform on the most likely was about $826,300. That's not factored into that $700,000 we talked about at the annual meeting, and I think I made that very clear at that meeting, or hopefully I did. So this is a problem. Okay, we're going to have to deal with that problem. Hopefully it's not the problem a little bit further over to the left here, which shows about $1.4 million. So we need to start positioning and maneuvering our district to be able to deal with these type of scenarios that you're looking up here. And the first step of that process is, right now, our support staff become eligible for health benefits when they work approximately 17.5 hours a week. Okay, healthcare reform requires employers to offer healthcare coverage to employees if they work 30 hours per week, and that's an average of 30 hours per week. It's not that they're scheduled for 30, it's in a certain time period, which is called the look back. Did they actually work 30 hours? And if they qualify in the look back period, they automatically get that insurance the next year, and then the requalification process goes on and on. Now, one could argue the merits of 17.5 versus 30. That's we knew that this change was probably coming. After we went through the changes with Act 10, so we wanted to wait and not make the change twice, but make it once, and we're at that point right now. Part of it is, if we continue to offer insurance for staff members that work 30 hours or less, those people will not be eligible to go out on the exchanges. Meaning their only option for insurance will be purchasing it from the district or through their spouse. They are not eligible anymore to go to that exchange because we're offering it to them. When you look at the exchanges again, we know there's going to be a subsidy, and based on just some preliminary calculations on what our support staff are making in combination with the hours that they're working, some of them, or a majority of them, may be eligible for a subsidy in some form or fashion. It may be better off for those staff members to go to the exchange. There's only, again, one wild card on that, and what is going to be the cost of the plan on the exchange, and that's coming up very quickly, and we will know that. Part of the intent tonight was to make some of these changes tonight and move on. After we've discussed it a little bit more in the last couple days, we do have time where we can wait until the October meeting or one of the board retreat if we wanted to take a look at this, and I think that's kind of where we're going tonight. But certainly, I don't see any other option but changing that benefit level from 17.5 to 30 hours, and for two reasons. One, our staff will not be eligible for a potential subsidy, and number two, when we start looking at where we're going with healthcare reform, you can see it's starting to rack up a bill even before we even start into the game, and we're going to have to deal with that in some form or fashion. So, and when we're talking about these eligibility of staff members, a majority of our staff are already at 30 hours or more. That we're talking about a small percentage of those folks. We would look at giving them some sort of option between now and the end of the year to maintain, and that would give us, in that insurance review committee that we work with, the chance to try to make some strategic moves. But as I've said, every time I've had this conversation regarding healthcare reform, nothing has the potential to affect employees in our district greater than healthcare reform in the next 3 to 5 years. This will be a complete landscape reshaping of health insurance for employees, not only here but across the nation. I think if you would have seen in the papers not too long ago, UPS is one of the first companies that have taken a pretty bold step, is that healthcare reform only requires the employer to offer insurance to the employee and their dependents. It does not require the employer to offer insurance to the employee's spouse. UPS has already come out and said, it was in the newspapers, they're not going to offer employee spouses coverage. They're going to have to do that either at the exchange or through their own employer. So what are other businesses going to do around us? We don't know that information yet, but over the course of the next year and a half, we certainly will be making strategic moves to deal with issues such as this. So I would encourage you to take a look at at some of the documents in here. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call me. I think really in a nutshell, I think I've summarized it as best as I can. One, it could be a disadvantage to the employees. We'll find out on October 1st. But whether it is or it isn't, we will have to make strategic moves in order to decrease this $826,300. And I think, again, it is in our best interest, not only for the employees, but for the district to move from 17 and a half to 30 hours. I know Mr. McMullen was on the Insurance Review Committee. I know Judy sat in some of those as a representative from the Wellness Committee. I don't know if you'd have anything else to add. The committee's made up of both teachers, administrators, central office staff, and board members.
No, it was a great presentation. It does take some time to get your head around all that's happening. It's inaccurate to say, well, let's just try to save a little money, and so we'll stop offering benefits for the 17.5-hour employees. I mean, when you look at it in the context of healthcare reform and the exchanges and whether or not possibly they're going to be better off going there. We don't know what they're going to get. There's a financial angle, there's a healthcare angle. It's a very complicated picture. I mean, we're making decisions on the best information we have.
And they've made laws based on rules that they haven't developed yet. They're constantly changing. I looked in the paper today and I made the statement, I am not an expert on this. No, I am not an expert. I don't know that there is anybody an expert on this because they're still writing the rules on there. I think we know as much as we can know. We're certainly working with good people, and I think our committee's informed. But again, this changes. Nobody saw the delay of the employer mandate coming in all of a sudden changed to January 1st of 2015, which was a step in the right direction, but they need to make a lot more steps in order to make this workable. And I see this as transitioning over the next 3 to 5 to 10 years, that I think healthcare reform will take that long to kind of work its way through the system, if ever.
And as I understand it, the proposal that we're considering would also contemplate grandfathering the existing 17.5-hour.
There's approximately 11 staff members that work between 17 and a half and 30 hours that are taking advantage of the health insurance program. We would try to, or we would recommend we grandfather those folks in between now and the end of the year, and then spend the rest of the year again preparing for these changes, because there will be more changes that will affect more than just those 11 people as we move forward here. We're quite certain of that, unless something comes up here that's just we're not just seeing. So we would make that recommendation, and what that really means is that then any new people we hire, we're not creating, number one, a problem for them. We're allowing them to go to the exchanges. We're allowing our current people who are between 17 and a half and 30 hours. And depending on if you're closer to the 17 and a half or the 30 hours, could be a significant difference depending on your individual household. As whenever you make rules like this, whether it's changes to Social Security that have been recommended in the past, or health care, or other retirements, there's winners and losers. Somebody's always right on that line, and we indirectly experienced that with some of our retirees when we changed the retirement language for that. There were some people that were okay, there were others that were kind of okay, and there were others that, in the end, it was not probably good for them. But we can look at that same scenario as we're with those folks as we are for healthcare reform.
I think it would be helpful to have a little bit more time to look at it, and maybe at the Board Academy that's coming up the first Monday in October, put it back on that agenda, or wait till the next board meeting just to have a little more time to ask questions and process it, because it is complicated, and just want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable with what we're doing.
One of the things that we should keep in mind as we're talking about this is there's a number of positions in the district that we haven't posted yet. And specifically because we need to know what direction we're going to go. If it's going to be, because some of these jobs are, 20-hour jobs, some of them are 25, some of them are 30. I think the last thing we want to do is bring in somebody and tell them you're getting this benefit and then have to take it away. So we've been sitting on those jobs. If we could make a decision within the next month on where we want to go so we can move forward with them, because, from a strategic point of view, and Mrs. Zardi and I have had many conversations about this, what does this mean for us, that we're going to be looking to employ people under 30 hours now, or does it mean we identify those key positions where we know they need to work more than 30 hours? And again, this isn't something that just Toma is struggling with. This is something every employer in the nation will be struggling with. It will be very interesting to see how this shakes out again in the next 3 to 5, 10 years.
As we sat down and began the insurance meetings and talked about healthcare reform, we were given the charge of trying to look for the silver lining in some of this, as well as what good can come from this as well. And I know that some of our support staff members have really, need insurance and have really struggled with the district insurance because they literally, their whole paycheck goes for insurance. So I want to believe that by providing the option of going to the exchanges and getting insurance there, we may be creating a better situation for a lot of those folks who just struggle to pay the premium on the current insurance.
We hope that's the case. We honestly don't know, but we're hoping that the theory behind the exchanges is to give an affordable option to people. I will say, from a business perspective, this has been discussed at the insurance committee level, at the finance committee level, and making this change from a business perspective is pretty well understood. But I guess, as Mrs. Deming mentioned, it would be nice to give people a little bit of time to understand the healthcare angle to this, and so if it's agreeable to everyone else, I would also like to bring this back at one of our upcoming meetings. Mr. Gorder has mentioned that there is some need to get this decided soon, and so we're not going to put it off long. It would probably be at the next board meeting, academy or regular board meeting. Any thoughts on that?
I agree.
Okay. Yeah, healthcare reform. It can consume a lot of, as Mr. Gorder can attest, it can consume a lot of time and energy, and
we spend countless hours. It's not just myself, but the office staff. Weekly webinars, sometimes bi-weekly webinars on this, trying to keep up with the changes, conversations with our consultants, the insurance review committee that we have. We've met once already this year, numerous times last year, trying to prepare for these up-and-coming changes. And we'll get through it, but again, it certainly isn't going to cost us less money, I do not think.
in the short term, it doesn't look that way. Let's hope that in a little bit longer time frame that it does work out. Okay.
The sun comes up every day. That's what I'm thinking about.
I like being an eternal optimist.
Well, I appreciate the candid, truthful input that we get. We have to make good decisions. All right, bumpy ride. We'll do the best we can.
That we will.